Hello, good morning, my friends, and welcome to the Impact Money Show. We're set to explore an expansive array of topics that paint a vivid picture of the global economic, technological, and geopolitical landscape. Let's dive into the complexities and the opportunities of our time. Let me send this right over to my good friend and colleague, Mr. Matt Dixon. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. The stock market has been on a wild ride, with the Dow Jones taking a significant hit, dropping by 140 points yesterday, influenced by the rising bond yields that have investors questioning the Federal Reserve, the banking cartel's decision to maintain current interest rates. Yet today's negative narrative brings a glimmer of hope, with the Dow and the NASDAQ futures both up about 0.5%. Possibly a response to some positive economic symbols or the recalibration of the market expectations. This seesaw effect underlines the delicate balance between economic indicators and investor psychology, a dance that dictates the flow of capital across the globe. The White House's decision to freeze all federal grants and loans is a seismic shift in policy, potentially affecting trillions in government expenditure. The unexpected move could have profound implications for education, healthcare, and countless public programs, forcing a reevaluation of how government intervention shapes our economy and social fabric. It's a moment to consider the broader impact of fiscal policy on societal well-being, economic growth, and the lives of millions who rely on these funds. In the realm of impact investing, the Trump administration is steering towards new horizons, focusing on equitable AI applications, initiatives to support first-time homebuyers, and integration of climate insurance into financial strategies. KKR's ambitious $3 billion climate strategy is standing out. And I'll tell you what, it's like you have the two sides really pulling at each other here. However, the landscape is not without controversies, especially in the healthcare investments, where profit motives must be balanced against public healthcare outcome. This narrative explores how finance can be a tool for societal good while navigating through political headwinds. Turning our focus on India, the stock market has been a story of resilience with broad-based gains, yet it is not a uniform tale. While sectors like Whirlpool's India's parent company show growth, Tata Motors has faced setbacks. SEBI's crackdown on financial influencers is a clear signal of regulatory push towards market integrity, spotlighting the influence of digital platforms on investment decisions. This scenario offers insight into the growth dynamics of one of the world's largest economies, where opportunity and risk walk hand in hand. Gold and silver markets are witnessing significant movements, with gold up nearly 1% and silver by almost 2%. These shifts might reflect investors' search for stability in uncertain times or bets against inflation, prompting us to consider the role of precious metals, not just as commodities, but as strategic assets in diverse investment portfolio. Whether this marks the beginning of a new bullish phase or a short-lived spike remains a key question for market watchers. A tragic event right here in Washington, D.C., where PSA Airlines operated CRJ-700 collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter, has left the community in mourning and raised significant safety concerns. This incident not only demands a thorough investigation into aviation protocols, but also serves as a stark reminder of the human element in our technological and military endeavors. It's a moment for reflection on how we balance security with civilian life. I was there last night, actually. As a matter of fact, my wife looks at me and she says, "Bruce, there's sure is a lot of sirens." And here in the district, we hear a lot of sirens. And you have helicopters. There's been a lot of helicopters since before the inauguration. Before the inauguration, the helicopters started, and they said, the word in the district here was that they were looking for radioactive material. I don't know if it's true or not, but the helicopter traffic has remained very high. And my wife, yeah, she says, it's just more sirens than normal. I say, yeah, I don't know. And anyway, about 30 minutes later, she comes out. I was still kind of working or whatever. And she says, yeah, Bruce, there's a small plane crashed. And or there was a collision, midair collision. I started researching it. And both her and I, we've been around the world many times. A small plane, we thought immediately at DCA. It means a lot of things. So that plane, I've ridden that sort of plane, that plane many times, maybe up to New York and back, many, 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 hundreds of times myself. It holds about 60 passengers plus the crew. I believe the plane was full. The U.S. Figure skating nationals was just out in Wichita. It was a flight from Wichita to DCA. And as I was just scrolling over, putting the show together this morning, Spencer Lane, one of the skaters, was put out a picture of him boarding the plane, and of course we haven't heard anything from him. Just one of the many poor souls. They could have been any of us. And, what is going on with the flights? It's unbelievable what's going on with the flights. It didn't used to be that way. We need to seriously look at it. I think the planes are getting older. Now this was, of course, something else. It was collision, but there's been a lot of problems with the flights lately. Falling out of the sky, and I mean, just crazy stuff. Even yesterday, there was a smaller plane that crashed in California. Those small planes, they crash sometimes, often maybe. But just absolutely horrible. I can still, obviously the planes the helicopters are still, I can hear them right now, up and down the Potomac looking for people. Not many survivors. I think there are some survivors. I know that I was hearing some, reports and seeing stuff. They're pulling people, and yeah, we found some more. We only need one ambulance, and yeah, but pray for everybody involved, and just horrible incident. We're going to need to find out exactly what happened there. Oil prices are inching down amidst a flat performance in Asian markets, influenced by an anticipated oversupply, China's evolving energy needs, and the ripple effect of U.S. sanctions. This situation affects energy strategies worldwide, from corporate planning to international diplomacy, highlighting the complex interplay of economics, politics, and environmental considerations in the energy sector. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s confirmation hearing for the position of Secretary of Health and Human Services was fraught with controversy. And this guy, he really killed it. It was a masterclass. They were focused on his past statements regarding vaccines, public health. This hearing is emblematic of the broader debate on science, policy, and trust in public health initiatives in the U.S., potentially setting the tone for future health policies. The real issue is nobody trusts the government anymore. There's one thing that the whole January 6th thing did, and that was pulled back the cloak. It pulled the mask off. How corrupt these organizations are. Even our own DOJ just going after people who didn't even enter the Capitol, and even entered the Capitol, doors were open. It's just craziness. With Pete Hegseth now at the Department of Defense, there's a clear shift in military policy, emphasizing traditional military values. Oh, and by the way, they didn't vote on RFK Jr. yet. That's going to go to the committee. They're going to vote on that. And if it makes it out of the committee, then they have the wider Senate vote. I have a feeling he's going to get confirmed. I didn't think so at first, but he did such a great job. It's hard to argue with him. And, even his conspiracy. I mean, he really was impressive. Impressive job. Impressive. So Pete Hegseth. So he's of course transgenders are out. This could lead to it will lead to transformation in military culture, recruitment strategies, and how the U.S. engages in the global stage, prompting discussions on military effectiveness, national defense priorities. I don't think anybody really is too much worried about that. Having generals in dresses doesn't seem like. I mean, generals can wear dresses all they want, I guess, but Not on the job. President Trump's administration is actively shaping the future of cryptocurrencies with policies aimed at making U.S. a hub for digital assets, the hub for digital assets. The recent gains in Bitcoin and Litecoin may be having a great day again following the FOMC meeting, the banking cartels meeting there, are indicative of a growing acceptance and regulatory clarity for crypto, potentially ushering in a new era of financial technology and investment. You even had the little guy on there, the banking cartel head, saying that they're advising banks now to bank with crypto. Unbelievable. Bank with crypto companies. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine is not just a local war, but a catalyst for energy policy shifts in Europe. The cessation of Russian gas transit through Ukraine has forced Europe to rethink its energy security, leading to higher prices, discussions on alternative energy sources, and a reevaluation of geopolitical alliances. This situation underscores the intricate link between energy economics and international relationships. Lastly, in AI and robotics, we're witnessing transformative changes with developments like Alibaba's Qwen 2.5 Max, DeepSeek's AI model, and Tesla's Optimus. These innovations are not just technological leaps, but also ethical challenges, privacy debates, and discussions about the future of human labor. They invite us to consider how we integrate these technologies into society in a way that benefits all, while safeguarding our values and our rights. As we push through today's show, these stories weave together the threads of finance, technology, and human endeavor, highlighting the constant evolution of our world. Each narrative is a chapter in the ongoing story of how we are shaped by the economic and technological forces around us. We now are joined by the great Matt Dixon with the Market Watch Report. Sir Matt, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Bruce. Morning, everybody. Pleasure to be with you again.
Always.
So we had the big interest rate decision last night. Obviously went exactly as expected. So I'll jump into share screen. We've got a few little bits and pieces to go through today. Okay. So you should be able to see a screen there. First of all, I'll just start off. I guess you can see that, can you, Bruce?
It's loading. Yes, I can. Excuse me.
So that's just to let you know, we've got GDP figures coming out today out of the US. Now, previously, 3.1% was the reading. The forecast is 2.6%. This is out now in a couple of hours' time. It's not going to be a major market mover, I don't think, but it just shows you that the economy does appear to be slowing at the moment, 3.1 down to 2.6. We'll see what the reading is. As I say, shouldn't be a major market mover, but it does just give an indication of where we're going with the economy. I'll jump over next to the Fed Watch tool. This is quite interesting. It showed yesterday, before the interest rate decision, a 98% chance, I think it was, that they were going to keep rates on hold. So obviously that was a done deal. They kept rates on hold, absolutely. So all eyes are now on the next meeting, which is, I think it's 48 days away, sometime in March. So quite interestingly, before the decision yesterday, there was a 39% chance that they're going to keep rates on hold in March. This is the next meeting coming up in March. That has now dropped to 18% chance that they're going to keep rates, that they're going to actually cut rates, in March. So it means that they're now more likely, there's only a 68% chance they're going to keep rates on hold in March. Now that's jumped to 82%. So we can see that on the bar chart here. 82% chance now they're going to keep rates on hold again in March. So there's, as you probably, I don't know whether you mentioned it earlier, I didn't join the show early enough, but there's a bit of a battle going on between Powell, the Fed chair, and between Trump.
Oh yeah, man, it seems to be heating up.
Absolutely, yeah. So Trump wants to cut interest rates. He wants to stimulate the economy. He's all for a growing economy. And he's even talking about potentially taking the power away from the committee and taking power back to himself to set interest rates. I'm not sure that would be a good idea. I think Powell does know what he's doing. He's trying to balance things, but it's a very, very difficult thing to balance right now because they still have elevated inflation. This is why he couldn't acquiesce to Trump saying cut interest rates, because inflation is still well elevated. And that's one of the biggest dangers is elevated inflation. If inflation gets out of control, but Trump is seeing the other side of it, he sees growth diminishing and the unemployment figures now starting to deteriorate. And he doesn't want to see that come on his watch, where we're starting to get more people unemployed and a shrinking economy. So there's a bit of a battle going on, and nobody can really win because there aren't really any answers. There's no suitable answers.
There aren't any what?
There aren't any answers to the problem.
Answers.
The problem is that growth is diminishing, and yet we have elevated inflation. They're both counter. So you can't deal with one without adverse effects on the other. And you can't deal with the other without adverse effects on the first one. So there's a problem. And this problem was started with all the money printing, with a massive acceleration in trying to keep the economy afloat in 2008, bailing the economy out of the worldwide recession, the worldwide crash that happened then. The same with COVID. These things, all this money printing had to be paid for, and there's a reckoning to come. Now, when that reckoning actually happens, we're getting closer and closer and closer, and it is going to cause a lot of trouble. So let's just move on. We've seen this one before. This is the SARM rule. Sorry, the other one is the SARM rule. Let me jump over to the next one. The SARM rule for recessions. And basically, every time the SARM rule has indicated a recession has followed, the indication is there now in this circled line, where basically the unemployment rate 3-month average is 0.5% below the 12-month low. And that's happened now. So it's basically saying there is a recession coming. And every single time since the 1960s, this SARM rule has indicated accurately of every single recession that's taken place. So it is indicating now there's a recession coming up. So we need to take that on board if it's so accurate. And even the leading economic index is showing that we should be heading toward recession. So all the indications, I've actually seen 10 different charts. There's another one I'd like to pull up, but I won't right now. In fact, I could probably flip through and if I can find it quickly. I mean, you can see here, every single one is showing about recession. This one's a nice one, showing about the inversion of the yield curve. Again, when the yield curve inverts, it's not the inversion of the yield curve, it's when the yield curve uninverts, that's when the recession starts. And we can see that every time. Now, this is slightly out of date. The yield curve is now uninverted. So when you go from an inverted yield curve to a uninverted yield curve, that's when recession comes. So we're up here right now. So we're due this recession anytime now coming this year. So what's happening in the major economy? Well, let's look at dollar index. So dollar index is basically, obviously, the dollar against a basket of currencies. The main constituent of that basket is the euro. Now, we know euro's weak, but what this is showing us is that the dollar is going to become weaker. It's going to fall sharply against the euro, the pound, and the other currencies. So that's already begun. So we have a really nice chart here, which basically shows either a wave 1 or a wave A down, and then we have an A, B, C, wave 2 or wave B up. So now we're heading down in this wave, which should take us substantially lower with the US dollar. And I checked this final C wave up, and it's, you need to measure these just to check it fulfills all the rules, that the wave 1 is greater than wave 3, is less than wave 3. I've got that signed the wrong way around. The wave 1 is less than wave 3. So this is a valid Elliott wave count for a wave C. So we should now be pushing down, and we've already begun to push down quite sharply with the US dollar. The dollar is weakening. So short term, that might actually be good for risk assets. And let's just jump over to Bitcoin and see where we're at with Bitcoin. So the reason I've wanted to jump into Bitcoin is we still do have, I believe, new all-time highs to come for Bitcoin. Because if we're seeing a weaker dollar, that's probably going to be good for Bitcoin. This, as we know by now, we've shown in the last few shows, is Bitcoin from the FTX low all the way up in 5 waves. We haven't yet completed the 5th wave. The final 5th wave should take us to new all-time highs for Bitcoin. but that should signal a major turning point, a major correction to the downside that's going to come sometime relatively soon. But we've got to finish this fifth wave higher first. So that would equate with this nice diminishing US dollar, because that's normally quite good for Bitcoin. So just jumping back again, $2 index. The charts are a little bit slow at the moment, moving a bit slowly. But anyway, the dollar index is set to weaken, but following a weakening, because it's probably an ABC weakening of dollar index, for some reason the charts are going slowly, so not quite sure why that is. I'll remove some of these tabs, see if that helps. So not really helping, but anyway, the Bitcoin is basically showing that we have probably not yet completed the move down in Bitcoin. Can you still hear me, Bruce?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So unfortunately, the charts aren't updating, but basically we're working on wave 4 at the moment. I don't believe wave 4 is complete, even though you can't see it on the chart. Okay, so there's no more data for some reason. Let's just see if I can update that one. It's coming through.
It can't keep up with you, Matt.
Yeah, sadly. But it's really slow loading for some reason. I'll find a better place to catch the internet, I think. So that's still showing. I mean, that's showing quite clearly now. It's beginning to show the DXY again. What I was saying was it's kind of corrective. Move higher, we're going to push down again. So, but if it's a larger A, B, and C to the downside, then we still have another massive push higher for the dollar later on. So even if we get dollar declining, which might equate to new all-time highs for Bitcoin in the not too distant future, following that, we'll probably see a massive appreciation in US dollar. That normally is a risk-on event, so I think it's going to be geopolitical. I still think there's a lot of trouble brewing, even though for the time being, we're having a respite in the Middle East. There's still some trouble bubbling away in the Middle East, but there's still, I think it's going to erupt again in the Middle East. And I think that geopolitical trouble will cause dollar strength again after this fall. And that's not good for risk assets. So let's see how the chart is working now. Back to Bitcoin. It's still extremely slow. But what I was saying was anyway with Bitcoin, even though we can't really see it clearly, we are in the midst of a correction still. It's actually up to 105,000 on Bitcoin. I still expect the correction to continue. We could drop potentially down to, here it is. It's loading slowly. But I still want to go to probably the 1 hour chart. Oh, okay, it's loading okay now. To show you what my anticipation or expectation is here for Bitcoin and why I'm thinking what I'm thinking. So we have the all-time high there on Bitcoin wave 3, and we're having a correction. Now, it could be completed as an ABC down here. Forget W, it could just be ABC, we could be completed. But what I'm saying is the movement higher doesn't appear to be particularly impulsive. We're not racing away to the upside. There's still quite a lot of overlap here. So I think we're also an ABC higher, which makes a larger X wave. So then we've had W wave down, an X wave higher, and we should get a Y wave down. I've got Y wave potentially, if we get 100% projection of the W wave here, I've got potentially the Y wave taking us maybe to 93, 94,000 area for Bitcoin. So personally, I still expect the correction to continue. I don't see any real impulsive movement upside here. You can see it's overlapping, very much overlapping movement. The movement down here very much overlap this movement up here, movement down here, overlap this movement up here, and so on. So it's overlapping. That's telling me this is a corrective move down, but it's probably not yet complete. But then following completion, we should then rally powerfully to new all-time highs for Bitcoin. So I'm not suggesting anybody go short for Bitcoin. All I'm saying is if it dips lower in corrective fashion, it will be a great opportunity to fill your bags to dollar cost average, to maybe get more exposure to Bitcoin at better prices than we have right now. That's my expectation. But even so, as I say, I'm not suggesting anybody sell in anticipation of this fall. It could be I'm wrong and we could race straight. I mean, there's a lot of support for Bitcoin. as you say, governments are talking about stacking up with Bitcoin now. Institutions are, individuals are. It's a good story, but bear in mind, Bitcoin is still a risk asset. It's not purely a store of value. It's not gold. And mentioning gold, let's just jump over to gold if the chart will load. Let's just see, where have we got gold? Here we are. Yeah, loaded quite nicely. Now, interestingly, with gold from the all-time high, I think it was the all-time high here, we have 3 waves down. So clearly 3 waves down is corrective, but we appear to probably have 5 waves up. So it may be that we're actually just going to get, after 5 waves, you get a small correction back and then another push. So I'm actually quite bullish gold here because we've only had 3 waves down and we've already had 5 waves higher. That's telling me the impulsive direction is still to the upside, that this movement down from the all-time high is just in 3 waves. We've started to move up in 5 waves. Yes, we'll get a small correction back. After 5 waves, you always get at least a 3-wave pullback. So yeah, we'll get a 3-wave pullback, but then we should get a new push to all-time highs for gold. So I'm still extremely bullish on gold. But again, right now, for me, is not the time to be jumping in, because after 5 waves high, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can see wave 4 didn't overlap into wave 1. It just went, I mean, it's really cool that it didn't actually overlap into it. It came down, it was rejected from that level there, which was the top of wave 1. So that was beautiful. And then pushing up higher in a 5th wave. And we can even see the 5th wave itself broken into 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 5th wave now. So that's 5 waves, and the 5th wave itself has 5 waves within it. And then we'll get a 3-wave pullback and then should rocket away to new all-time highs for gold. So I'm still really bullish. I know Bruce has been bullish from over a year ago on gold. He's been right all the way along. It's been a great asset.
Absolutely.
I knew you'd agree with that. Yeah. So Solana is, good that we can click over to that again. I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought, I mean, the Fed was slightly hawkish last night, and we can actually see from the expectations of interest rates, when we looked at that Fed Watch tool, we saw the expectations of a rate cut had diminished, and the expectations of a hold have actually increased since yesterday. So that's telling us that the Fed, if anything, had a slightly hawkish bias, but it was very, very mild, but slightly hawkish bias. That is why the expectation for a rate cut have diminished. So I thought, being slightly hawkish, I thought it might be a bit more negative risk assets, but it wasn't really. Wasn't negative. We did see some slight negativity in the equity market, but certainly crypto.
Well, they moved the market so far down over the weekend. I mean, it was like, I was talking with some of my friends I trade with, and it was like they liquidated as many people as they could, and they set themselves up for, and it went up and down a little bit, but you know how these market makers are. They knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, markets are always distorted, aren't they? Especially ahead of news like this. You'll see market makers playing with prices, playing with levels just to try and catch people out. Maybe that's what happened, and maybe this is just a bit of rebalancing after that bit of a sell-off. Maybe that was the case. I mean, Solana here, we had a clear A down, a clear B wave triangle, and working on a C wave to the downside. I don't think that's yet complete. Again, we can see potentially wave 1 from the end of the triangle. We have a wave 1 down, 2 up. So we measured that wave 1, we transposed it to wave 2. It gave us the precise end of wave 3 to within a penny. And then we got a very nice and clear ABC up, corrective wave up. So we're expecting, but what I'm saying is that ABC may not be complete. And this is always the issue with corrections. A correction, ABC correction, can morph into a double correction. So you can get 2 sets of ABCs, and even 3 sets of ABCs. Corrections can just continue. Triple corrections, by the way, are extremely rare, but it can happen. But here, so far, we potentially have a double correction. We've got an ABC, and then we've got an ABC down, and then an ABC higher again here. So ABC down, then ABC higher. So potentially, we could have wave 1, 2, 3. This could still be wave 4. We've not overlapped into territory wave 1, so it's perfectly valid. So potentially we can still have this as wave 4 and turn down from here. Obviously, we need to move all this over just a little bit. But yeah, potentially, just roughly, turn down here in the final 5th wave. So this is still absolutely on the cards. Nothing was invalidated from last night. We're still very much in corrective mode. Slightly, this is what you call a bear flag, basically. You can see basically a slightly upward sloping flag here, and you'd expect the flagpole down, the flag waving in the wind, and next movement should be to the downside. So that's still very much on the card. So I do expect we're getting close now, obviously, to the weekend. Maybe it'll happen over the weekend. I don't know what will cause it, but I suspect we've got one more leg down to come before we can then be reasonably confident that this corrective phase is over, and then we can then look towards a nice rally towards new all-time highs for Solana, but not only Solana. A lot of the assets, Bitcoin, XRP, many of the assets could be rallying to new all-time highs in the reasonably near future. And just to probably finish off with the equity markets, here's where we could be at, where I think we're at. If we have downside to come, short-term downside to come, you would expect it also probably with the S&P 500, the SPX. I think that we've had an A down from all-time highs. I think we've had a B higher, and I think we're just working into probably a C wave down. Not a massive sell-off, but probably a bit of a sell-off to give us a very nice clean A, B, C correction to a bit further downside perhaps. And then again, we should be set up for a nice rally to the upside to take us once again to new all-time highs. But I suspect that this movement, after the ABC correction, the movement should be in 5 powerful waves upside to the upside, in an impulse to the upside. But I suspect that may be the 5th of the 5th of the 5th wave. You know, we talk about fractals and waves within waves. That could then set the scene for a very substantial correction to the downside. So the same as Bitcoin, I think the same goes for the likes of the S&P 500 and so on. But we still, I believe, have a really nice rally to new all-time highs ahead of us. So I think that's really hopeful and promising. I think that's probably good for today. There's plenty more we can talk about, but it's probably enough for one day. So hopefully we'll catch up tomorrow, see where we're at with the markets. But I'm expecting maybe a little bit perhaps of a sell-off to come today, even though the markets are all looking highly positive right now. Let's see how things get going when the market really picks up later in the day. So, and let's see how that GDP news comes out. Maybe that will be an impetus for the market. We'll see. So thanks for that, Bruce. Thanks for everybody for listening, and look forward to catching up tomorrow.
Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure.
Pleasure all mine. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. The great Matt Dixon. There we go. I just updated the prices as well. The great Matt Dixon with the Market Watch Report. World-class analysis that we have here on the Impact Money Show every day, Monday through Friday. I can still hear the helicopters circling above. It is just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. What in the world is going on? What was the Black Hawk helicopter doing? How did this happen? How did this happen? It's mind-boggling. And I have flown so much in my life, you know. I mean, you guys probably have too. It just is crazy. Just crazy. I'm hearing now my wife was messaging me. Obviously, it's very early here. Well, early at this point, but up to 11. They're saying up to 11 of the U.S. figure skating people may have been on that plane. And all the others too. Unbelievable. I did mention Spencer Lane. But you know, and here in the Washington D.C. area, we have a lot of skaters. I was an ice skater, so that key right in. But my gosh, all those people just absolutely horrible. I really just don't even. It's hard to understand, and you know, I don't know if you guys saw. I guess I will go ahead and play the video. This video was taken from the Kennedy Center. You may have seen it before, but I'll play it here on the show, and then I'm gonna play some other stuff. But let me share my screen, and this is the moment of the impact. And then both the helicopter had three to four people on it, and of course, there, like I said, I think it was a packed plane. This is the moment that the impact happened. There it was. This is from the Kennedy Center, and they do a close up of it. Just horrible. Shocking, really, as well. Play one more time. Yeah. Black Hawk helicopter appeared to be running completely dark. I don't see any. Wow. And you can imagine they were so close to landing. I've made that descent. I can't tell you the number of times. Right here into Ronald Reagan Airport. Actually, so there's light on there. You can see that. It's so sad. Prayers for everybody involved. And you know, guys, it can all be gone. Everything can be gone. You got to live your life to the fullest and try to do everything that you can do. Try to do the right thing, because you just never know. You never know what may happen. I'm going to play one of the panels from our event, the DC inaugural week event. We had, of course, some wonderful panels. We are putting together, just so you know, as well, I'm putting together 2 tech weeks in different countries as well. I will be speaking at the family office event down in Florida soon, in South Florida. And I believe we'll probably throw one of our galas. We'll see. Putting it together now. So I'll be down in a bit of a change of plans. I was planning on going to Hong Kong, but flights got me scared. No, I'm kidding. I shouldn't kid about that. But yeah, anyway, we'll see. I just think that for me right now, Florida is, I mean, the U.S. is kind of where it's all at the moment. So I will be speaking at this Global Family Office Investment Summit. That's the 24th edition in Miami, February 18th and 19th. The Trump International Beach Resort, Sunny Isles, Miami. So I'll be down there. Looks like we'll hold some Washington elite events, possibly a luncheon, high-level luncheon, maybe a gala reception. We'll see. I'm putting it together right now. Should be a lot of fun. If you're down in Florida, I'd love to see you guys. Please reach out. Now I'm going to play. Let's see which panel here I'm going to play. I'm going to play. This is a great panel. This one has the great Robert Malone on it. Just cue it up right here.
Ethics, and so we have a.
I told you it was going to be crazy. You saw there's a little fighting up there with a
ethics, and so we.
We got a mic. We got a mic. We got a mic. We have a mic. Here we go. Moving on.
There we go. I'm going to introduce everybody. Great panel.
I need to both working.
Make America
All right,
healthy.
so Maha, make America healthy again. It's like one of the coolest things, of course, with Trump and with RFK. It has been absolutely amazing. Our next panel features some really amazing people. Actually, the next 2 panels really do. We have a panel discussion on holistic health and freedom and regenerative solutions. Please welcome to stage Lisa Shammerhunt, Dr. Robert Malone, Richard Lackey, Charlie Pexton, Parrott, and our very own Sophia Garrett. And as well, the Reverend is joining us as well. Please join us. We have a wonderful prayer for us. The Reverend Wendy Sober.
Hello, everybody. So let's grow. I'm here today, not only as one of the organizers, but also to announce my own project, private tattoo onto my arm, unicorn, which my goal is to reach at least 1 billion people and change their lives positively. So I don't believe we have a social media dilemma. I believe we have a human potential dilemma. So I designed something I've been working on it since 2017 to tap into our human potential. And so the solution is designed to bring us all together on a global platform and do exactly what we're doing here. So everybody has something to teach and everybody has something to learn in the world. And it's about how we bring everybody together based on their potential and help each other tap into our potential. I wouldn't be here today if it had been for amazing human beings. Be that my mother, be that a friend, be that Warren, Wendy Silvers, who I just met. Also Dr. Malone, who I've been following for a long time, Dr. Berg, amazing people who have taught me little lessons. What if we could scale that online with technology? And so I've committed my journey since 2009 to developing ethical technology and believe ethics. And so we have a huge dilemma. When you go online, you know what happens. You go onto Instagram because you're in search of something or somebody. What happens next? Half an hour later, you're like, what was that for? So that's the problem we have also with their youth. And I believe that we have a shift that is catastrophic. What happened to the real mentors? Why do we have our youth have a 14-year-old son that are now honoring idols that are really worth nothing? What are the messages that they're bringing? What about the fathers? What about the uncles? What about the people who are actual mentors? So that is something that we have to bring back and understand that there needs to be a shift. So my solution is findyourmentor.com. You can go and sign up already. I have amazing software partners. One of them, an advisor, he built Truth Social as one of the little projects he's done. And I was asked by the bigger software partner to be able to join forces. And I was like, why me? I have that kind of an issue. And he was like, because you've understood how to scale something. You have a platform that is a hub, it's a marketplace, and it will allow everybody to join based on what they have and what they have to, what they want to learn. So it's finders and mentors, and we're intelligently matching everybody up based on what they have to bring to the table. And so I'm just going to leave it with this. We have 80% of coaches and mentors in the world who are not successful. Why? Mainly because they're not experts at sales, marketing, technology, anything like that, SEO, Google. So I was like, okay, what can we do to help coaches? And I said, we need to provide, or basically we need to solve that problem. So what do coaches and teachers and mentors that Dr. Robert Malone is a perfect example need to focus on? Two things. One is teaching, helping, and the other thing is furthering his base of knowledge. So that's what this platform is designed to do, is to automate the process of bringing important people together based on what they're looking for and eliminating the headache. So I'm going to give it to Dr. Malone.
I'm embarrassed. I can tell you that one thing that we don't know how to do is SEO. So I look forward to your coaching. We're getting better, but it's by increments. I'm Robert Malone. Together with my wife, Dr. Jill Glassfield Malone, we publish a Substack primarily on a daily basis called Who is Robert Malone, which is a riff off of Who is John Galt, which most people don't get. And so it's kind of a little bit of a litmus test if you've ever read Ayn Rand. If you understand the title of our Substack, we reach something in the range of 350,000 to 600,000 people daily. And what matters more than that, which, I'm proud to say that we're starting to hit the numbers that CNN is. I don't know how much that really means these days, but we seem to be influencing people that matter. And I think what we learned with our Substack is that we put out ideas, observations, interpretations, and we see it ripple through the community over the span of 6 months to a year. It's got this strange lag time, and it builds. Now, I want to say one little tiny fragment in response to your comment about avatars. Personally, what I want to see is an avatar for Murray Rothbard. So if any of you have followed that, I think there's enough literature there, and we can put it in. Our goal is to really try to bring back truth and integrity and to society in general, to serve as a role model. That's the important thing for people that are willing and able to speak and act with integrity, despite the outrageous things that get thrown at us these days. And certainly we've been subject to against the two books Jill and I put out last week, touring their future touring. And the other one is Cyborg and Force Coming Forward, both of which are very much grounded in the principles of subsidiarity, decentralization, and value of respecting the individual rather than to emphasize this kind of top, socialist structure that seems to be so actively promoted by globalists. And I think that, to try to close and not take too much time, the thing that I really, people think of me in the context of this work that I did when I was in my late 20s, both the haters and the supporters, that I would and came up with these ideas about using the mRNA as a new drug platform and how that could be used for vaccination as a leading indication that people don't really understand the genesis of all that. Is it was really just a realization based on the stuff that I'd done on the bench that this was a molecule to be used for a lot of different applications. I was working in a gene therapy lab, and it was heresy to talk about non-viral gene therapy, let alone mRNA-based gene therapy, because everybody was focused on viral vectors. But we've come so far since then. For me, I've been glad to try to help people to understand the tech and the logic underneath it and what the risks are associated with it. But I'm much more interested in global health, international affairs, and the principles of trying to empower individuals, which I think is the core theme that I'm hearing in this group, is individual empowerment and the capture of the value of individuals and individual innovation as a tool for driving society forward to the new future. And that's the vision that I really care about. The whole mRNA story and all of the little insider this and that, and Tony Fauci did that, and Bob Cadlick did this, and Operation Warp Speed. That's all interesting. But to me, a much bigger issue is the role of the human, the individual human in society, in empowering us and freeing us from the really oppressive force of these large transnational organizations, initiatives, NGOs, and the logic of a centralized planned economy driven by a single world government. That's what I perceive as the big threat. The issues of pharma and the corruption and what's going on in the government, all of that, yeah, that's important. But I don't think it's anywhere near as important as trying to enable people. And so close to that, thank you for your interest in your student.
So my name is Lisa Sherman Horn, and the thing about speaking is you have to be flexible because I have a PowerPoint prepared for you. So you're gonna have to use your imagination, and I do have my computer with me, so I'll share the photos afterwards. And I want to give you a disclosure before I start. I am not a licensed mental or medical professional. I am a healer. I am a hypnotherapist, certified hypnotherapist. I'm a master in neuro-linguistic programming and quantum healing. Last spring, it started to really upset me where I was seeing more and more people get sick and a lot of people dying. And I had a lot of loved ones and people in my life who got vaccinated. And I was desperate to figure out how can I help people. So I became trained in a quantum healing and I started doing this work and said, how can I prove that this is working? I'm just getting anecdotal information. So a friend of mine who is a functional medicine specialist recommended that I look into dark field microscopy. And basically what that is you're looking at your own line of blood under a microscope. The interesting thing is that's actually illegal in the state that I live in, Vermont. So who can explain that one to me? So I found a friend of mine who lives down in Florida and I asked her to be my guinea pig and she agreed. I hadn't done this healing at a distance yet, but with quantum, we are all connected. So we gave it a shot. She found someone who did the dark field microscopy. We looked at her blood under the microscope. It was something called rouleau, where the cells are stacked together and misshapen. She went home and I did the healing. 11 days later, complete change in her blood structure. And I'll send you that. You can look at the photos. Then she said to me, I have a friend who's had 1 vaccine and 3 boosters. Would you be able to help him? He just spent 11 hours on the floor 2 weeks to move. He had symptoms of MS. I said, let's give it a shot. I have no idea. He came in, we got his blood. We looked at it under the microscope. His blood was a mess. Incredible amount of rouleau. And he was so weak, he could barely walk. We did the healing and there's a miracle story that happened with him. So to preface this, I'm not religious. I was raised Jewish, but when I do my healing work, Christ comes in. And I was working on him and I was imagining this water going through him. And this water was moving through him, but it was blocked. And Christ came in next to me and we pushed the water through, the water was healing him. And then, oh, I didn't say anything to him. A week later, when we met up, we looked at his blood and it was remarkable. It was completely normal. And he said to me, the strangest things happened. I don't know if this is relevant, but 2 days after the healing, I woke up at 7 in the morning, nauseous and vomited enormous amounts of clear liquid. I didn't have any water before I went to bed. I didn't have any water at all. And I've never had that much water at one time. So I've worked with people in groups and we're having the same experience where people are doing the dark field work before and right after, and the results are also incredible. This is not just for people who are vaccinated. It works for all different issues, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. We're seeing huge shifts in people in their lives. There's a lot more to share. But I want to give people more time. So here you go.
Thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for sponsoring this and putting it on. Incredible, incredible. And for the work that you've done in 2 weeks, remarkable. Thank you. Delighted with you. My name is Richard Lackey and I have 3 jobs, which is normal if you were in the past administration. You had to have 3 jobs. But what I like to say, and I'm hoping that it'll catch on, is now we're imagining what can be.
without the burden of what.
Well,
I hope that sinks in. It's really, I don't know if you feel, but anyway, my primary work is with an organization called the World Food Bank, and we're not a traditional food bank. In fact, our goal is that all food banks go to the wayside. We believe there's a lot more efficient ways to get food to people than with a traditional food bank. What we believe in, and this is where I wish more of the crypto guys were sitting here, is we believe that food is an asset class. And if you're talking to people in sub-Saharan Africa about mortgage rates or inflation rates, they kind of don't care so much. They really care more about the price of corn and how much soybeans is going to be produced in October. And for them, the net value of their family, the ability for them to send one child versus two children to school, the ability for them to feed themselves more than 5 times a week, maybe 7 times a week, is the value of corn. And so for them, the asset is the underlying commodity they grow in their backyard. So for us, we've realized that if we could help farmers to grow more commodities and they could grow better quality, not only would their family be healthier, but they would make higher incomes and they could live themselves out. The interesting thing here, and I'm a fan of what's Daniel's last? I always forget. Kahneman. Yeah, Kahneman. They wrote a fantastic book on the different kinds of systems, and I'm really big in thinking of in the systems scenarios, and hopefully that's where we're going with what we're doing now. Oftentimes we have a limitation of thinking, what can we do right now to solve the problem right now, versus thinking, what is the actual end goal? And hopefully people are starting to come to common sense and starting to engage logic again, to start thinking about the effects of everything that we do on the entirety of that system, whether it's an ecosystem or financials or what have you. And so with the World Food Bank, we realized that if we could teach farmers regenerative-based agriculture, or how to manage the soil better, everything begins with the soil. Save the soil, save the world. If you are able to take soil that's formerly dead and bring back a biome where it has bacteria and fungus, very much like the human enteric system, right? There's a balance. And if there may be a few people as old as I am here, if you feed a child antibiotics for several days, you notice they'll get thrush oftentimes. They get this white paste. It's because you killed off the bacteria, and now fungus overgrows because they're out of balance. And I grew up in the South where the treatment for that was a dirty dish rag. That's how you reintroduce bacteria. There's rumors that there's better ways to do that now. But the balance is the same in the soil. We realize now that fungus isn't always bad, that you really need a multitude of bacteria in the soil. Where I used to be invested in aquaponics and hydroponics, and we would put 26 minerals and vitamins in the water. We came to find out that the tomatoes that we grew, which were quite lovely, and we grew many of them, they were big. Everybody said they were the best. They're so good. But we found that the tomatoes that grew outside in the soil tasted incredible. The ones that were in the soil were rich and had texture, and you felt like they had better nutrition. Now we're finding that they do exponentially more nutrition in them. And that's because God put 850 plus nutrients in the soil. Right. And just because you don't measure it doesn't mean it's not there. We get into quantum physics later, but it's really, really important that we recognize you can imitate nature, but you can't replicate it. There's nothing that works better than nature. And so we found now that through processes like regenerative agriculture, we can teach farmers to rebuild their soil. Not to get into too much science, an extra 1% increase in soil organic matter, depending on where you are, can increase the ability to store 25 to 40,000 gallons per acre more in that soil. So when you have potential flooding, it now goes from, instead of being a problem, to being a savings account for water. When you have more root structure in the ground and more bacteria and fungus and mycorrhizas that are breaking up the minerals, literally like the neurology of the human system, where the roots are telling the rest of the biome what's needed to feed the plants that are there, and the roots grow deeper and the soil gets stronger. All of those benefits in the soil are now transposed into the food that grows out of it. And I think that we've been going through a time here. I was sharing with someone earlier, when I grew up, I worked in a greenhouse, and the fellow that ran the greenhouse kept the fans blowing, and towards the wintertime, it was getting fall, and I said, hey, ironically, his name was Mr. Roundtree. And I said, Mr. Roundtree, you could turn the fans off. It's kind of chilly in the greenhouse. And he said, well, the fans aren't to keep the plants. The temperature of the ground is more important than the temperature of the air. The fans are there to create stress because plants are like people. They need a little bit of stress. And if they have a little bit of stress, it forces them to drive their roots deeper and seek nutrition down where it's truly supposed to come from. And when they have stronger roots, they grow stronger stems and they produce more fruit. So the fan is to create real world environments, which also explains why in hydroponics and aquaponics, where they grow up, there's no problems at all. Everything is great. Then you get smaller fruits, you get tons of them, but you don't have a lot of value. If you want real value, you need to have better roots and stronger soil. So what we've done is found that if we taught those techniques to farmers, not only would they grow more, but they would grow better. And we can take farmers from $300 a year in income to $6,800 a year in income in under 2 years. That puts them in the top 1% of earners typically in the country. But to scale that, and I think that's the overriding story of what I'm looking to gather here, is how do we take that? And we need more. We need more Dr. Burks. We need more people out on the internet and sharing Substacks and increasing the data, because right now in an election time, we always say you can't teach someone during an election. But we're done with that. Now we need to get back to education. And if you want to change a population, it begins with education. We need more people understanding the strategies. They need to understand the logic, the Socratic method that goes into the processing so that people can process what they hear on their own. They can filter out. I try to remember the example. They for crap. They can manure. They can filter that out from everything else that they hear in social media. And if we can do that, they have the education, and we can give them the places to go to build on. And for us, we create marketplaces and we guarantee offtake. And we're now able to take that story and replicate it. But how do you replicate it even larger? For us, the next is media. And I'm excited to say that our host of our new TV show, Farm Hero, is here in Florida. Yeah. Shake your hand. Laura is the host of Farm Hero, which starts actually in a few weeks. It'll be on EarthX TV, and she'll be up here in a little bit. But we're now able to take that same story out to millions. And in Africa, we have a 5,000 acre farm. We train about 9,000 people a year, about 2,600 with adopt practices. You put that on a TV program, we reach 14 million people a week. And we lift over 1 million people a year out of poverty. For less than I spend on my farm, you got that's scale. Mama needs scale. So part of what I'm going to share is an invitation for you to join us, not just with Farm Hero, but with all of the folks that are in the space of making America healthy again, giving them the education that they need to be able to make the decisions and to step in and support the movement that we have, because it's, as other people said, it's not going to be easy, but we do have some momentum. We have the wind behind us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for sponsoring. I want to just acknowledge each and every person here for being here. When I lead the prayer circles on Sunday, I often say possibilitarians. And I believe that each and every person that is sitting in this chair and each and every person up here is what I would call a possibilitarian. So I invite you in this moment to just put your hands together and congratulate yourselves for saying yes. I have a question. And my mic just went out. I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Give the microphone.
Okay, so how many people here by a show of hands have a child that they love in their life? Okay, and how many people are parents? Okay.
How many are parents, but you don't have a child?
Right. That kind of. So I'm a mom. Before anything that I've ever done, any studies, any labels, any letters after my name, I'm a mom. And the only thing I ever really wanted to be in my life was a mom. By the grace of God, I was an older mom. I became a mom. And for me, that is the greatest gift when we talk about everything when we distill, just like when you distill all the world religions down into sacred texts,
it comes down to peace, love, compassion, unity, forgiveness, oneness. That is at the base of all of the world religions, right? And so when you distill all the things down about being a parent, what we are here for is to make sure that the generations that come after us do better than we do. So we're not, up until this point, we haven't been doing so well. Like we've left them a shizzle amount of stuff to handle. And I began my career with my daughter for another career. I've been in the entertainment industry for many years as a publicist. And I worked with celebrities and personalities and film projects and strategies and campaigns and all that kind of stuff, events. But when I became a mom, I was reborn. Because now my life had greater meaning than ever before, even though I always wanted to leave the world a better place. And I have been on a spiritual path since I am this big, seeking God, seeking to know this presence, whatever name that you call it, that's in everything. I'm also a hypnotherapist, I'm a channel, medium, and I am a nonviolent parenting educator. And I believe that if you want to change the world, we have to begin with the parents. So we have to begin with parents. We have to begin with the people that spend the most time with the children. That's where we begin. You want to change the world? You start with the parents. So each and every person that's here, whether you're a parent, you're parenting yourself, or there's a child in your life that you are a power of example to. You have been called to create something greater. So what you were speaking about is so important in terms of the food. As a parent, what you think about the most is how can I make the world a better place for these children? How can I make sure that they have food and clothing and a home? How can I make sure that the soil is clean? I interviewed Dave Brown on my podcast, love him. Regenerative farming. How can we be regenerative? I also think about the role of spirituality and faith in the political process, because if you just deal with a political process, I don't know about you, but I think it's what do you think? Right? If you faith and spirituality, a belief in a power greater than yourself, just like that 7 generations principle, everything that you do is going to be led by intention. What is the highest and the best choice here? And yes, as I believe Dustin said, I've been saying this for months. Does anybody remember in all that meeting when Betty Davis and all of her Betty was got on that stair and she pulled her dress tight and she said, "Buckle up, baby, it's gonna be a bumpy night." Anybody remember that? Okay, so buckle up because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. And that's part of what, as the roots grow deeper into the ground. My life is dedicated to the upliftment and the empowerment of women, mothers, and families, because if we do not have that, we don't have anything to give our children. And yes, amen. So we get to be the living embodiment of that which we want to see. Gandhi's statement, "Be the peace that you want to see," was not some glib quote. It was an invitation. It was a call to action. And I can tell you from being on the path that I've been on for decades, it's not for the faint of heart. And each and every possibilitarian that is here, each and every possibilitarian here can say that it has been hard. There have been moments of being on, I love the Ruby prayer, right? That when the world brings you to your knees, you're in a perfect position to pray. I have been on my knees in that way for many, many times. I've gone through many dark nights of the soul, and I've counseled many dark night of the soul experiences that other people have had. But what is the gift in that, right? Inherent within the dark night of the soul that many of us have gone through is the transformation, right? We talk about quantum physics and the quantum field. Mystics talked about that before the dawning of time. So now quantum physics comes along and just verifies what the ancient wisdom always knew. And how wonderful is that? Because you don't have to be a minister or a spiritual counselor. You get to be ministered to. You get to be your own mystic in your life. You get to be that absolute power of example, which is one of the reasons why I love and admire Bobby Kennedy so much. Because he demonstrates what it is like to live a life living in accordance with a higher power. So who's up for that? Let me see, how many people in this room are up for that? Right? Peace and love, compassion, we get to evolve forward. We don't have to do it perfectly, we just have to do it. We have to say yes to having a peace department. You know, the Maasai, how the Maasai greet each other, they say, how are the women and the children? Right? So some people call them, oh, third world country. Well, let me tell you something, when you're close to the earth, when you're looking at the rhythm of the moon and you're checking how's the soil doing, how are the plants doing, do I have food for my children? You are closer to this higher power and your consciousness is focused on something different than some of the other people that think that they're better than other people. And again, I know I said this when I first started, but this is a time for all of us to come together and create a world that is better than has been, and to walk together, to lean into each other so that we don't feel like we're alone in this. And so that it doesn't matter how many times you stumble, it doesn't matter how many times you fall. It matters that you get up again and you keep going. As they say, you keep stepping. So my invitation is to keep stepping and to go where your heart leads you and to be that place for somebody else who needs that encouragement, because together we are stronger. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go by yourself. But if you want to go deeper, you go together. So let's go
Amen.
together.
And by the way, Bobby Kennedy is one of the most ethical politicians I've ever experienced, because he does what he says.
Yes.
That's alignment with what I say and what I do are in alignment. That's ethics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I have a point of, I learned a point of personal privilege. Dr. Malone, can you give us just a little snippet? Because I remember, obviously, when we had the conversation, they were looking for you in Miami Beach, when we were at the Bitcoin conference. Can you tell us a little bit, what was the deal with you, the Fauci situation, the power for that experience of yours? They were after you, I don't know. What happened?
I'm not clear,
Well, what I'm saying is,
what you're referring to.
you've been known for years and years, but during that moment of COVID and all that, you grew up because everybody, Dr. Malone and this and that, got back and forth. Just a little bit of what happened that moment in time, basically.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure what, because that's like, I've written 2 books about that. But so not because here's that's a good long 2-hour podcast.
No,
The colonel was remember, I'm working as a consultant, running a small business, supporting the government largely, and also small innovators, focused on the idea that all of us, through our tax dollars, are getting poor value in terms of innovation, because the contracts are going to the very large companies that are fully federally compliant. They're not going to the small innovators who don't know how to work with government. So I was helping them to do that. That was my business. And particularly focused on clinical research, international clinical research, regulatory affairs, all that kind of stuff. And in the context of COVID, focusing on repurposing drugs to enable treatments, early treatments, and we came up with some. Rather, because I believe that development of vaccines, safe and effective vaccine, was going to take a decade or more, because that's the history. And instead, the government decided through Operation Warp Speed to basically throw the rule book in the trash can, the rule book of my profession that had been developed over decades, international, global, throw it in the trash can and just expedite everything, drop all the normal guardrails, because this virus was such an enormous public health threat that 3 to 4 out of every 100 people infected would die. Remember, that was 3.4% case fatality rate. G. Bhattacharya was one of the early ones that demonstrated that was false. That was propaganda. And I knew that to speak out about what was going on was extremely high risk. But I felt that what was going down ethically was so wrong in terms of the fundamentals of informed consent and the bioethical norms that I had been trained on my entire career. To do clinical research, you have to take this training again. And they were just breaking the whole rule book. And so I thought it was safe to talk about what the transgressions were in terms of the biomedical ethics. I thought that was a safe space because I was afraid, just like everybody else, just like all my other peers, like all of us. Remember how we were facing this wall of intimidation that was coming at us globally, all harm-based. And so I spoke out and wrote one of the first essays about what was wrong with the ethics of what was being done and informed consent and kind of the fundamentals of that. And one thing led to another, a whole cascade, because I had this history of this portfolio of patents, the initial disclosures, and having come up with the idea in the first place. So the government and whoever it was, the forces behind this that we now know was intelligence community, TIA, a lot of that infrastructure that was propagating locally. It was doing a poor job just answering people's questions. What is this tech? It seems very forbidding, mRNA. People didn't even know what that was. So I just found myself on podcast after podcast after podcast answering those questions. And then this wave of hate, coordinated hate, came at me through corporate media. And paradoxically, in parallel from the quote medical freedom, there were a lot of people that were upset. And it very much parallels what's happening right now in Casey and Kelly meetings. I came out of nowhere, apparently. I must be a government agent because of my background and the fact that I came up out of obscurity. You're talking about unicorns and kind of the new social media order where people can pop up suddenly and gain notoriety. And for those that have been laboring in the fields in an area of protest or whatever, that can be upsetting. Why should this person be getting attention when I haven't been getting attention? But I've been doing this for 2 decades because my child has autism. Whatever. I mean, there are definitely vaccine damaged children and mothers that have grievances. So that dynamic played in. So I started getting shot from every side. And that's kind of what led to that whole thread, and led to our kind of introspection and lessons learned together with my partner of 45 plus years of what is it that this thing that we've experienced? What is this dynamic of psychological warfare in that tech? And that's kind of what led us to this. There's a short version. Does that help?
Yep. Thank you. Picture up here. Let's make sure.
Hey Randy, I got another home run for us, man. This 2-bit exchange is absolutely amazing.
Hey Bruce, what's up, man? Yeah, why don't you tell me about that 2-bit exchange?
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to be able to list our coins that we want that we support, and they're going to be on this amazing derivatives platform. It's absolutely awesome.
Derivatives? I love derivatives. I can't wait to be on the trade copy program.
So what I want you to do is set up an account and then send me your UID and let's set you up with a trade copy system, and you just let it run. Copy our trades. That's it. Easy peasy.
So you want me to open an account, send you my user ID, and you hook me up with the trade copy system. I can't wait. Sounds spectacular.
Hey, Matt. Hey, listen, I met with the guys at 2-Bit Exchange while I was in Dubai, and this platform really looks amazing.
Yeah, hi Bruce. Yeah, thank you again for that heads up. I mean, I've looked into this 2-bit platform. It does appear to have everything we're looking for.
Yeah, that's right. 2-Bit, Toobit. They have great liquidity. They have futures platform. There's a lot of functionality that I think you're going to like on there. And they really want to work with us. They want to work with the Impact Money Show. And as you and I both know, if they have a good product and they want to work with us, well, hey, that's half the battle.
I mean, basically, I love that copy trade facility. I love the features on the platform. It's basically very simple to use.
Our viewers only need to set it up to copy our trades, and they just do all the trades that we do. Makes it really easy for people to participate. I think they're going to love it. I'm pretty excited about it.
And yeah, it's definitely going to benefit people. I mean, obviously, with all the years of experience that we can pack into it, and people can basically benefit from that. Yeah, I definitely think it's a goer.
Hey, David. Yeah, man, I'm excited about it too. I mean, when you think of the ways that we can help our viewers earn money and be able to participate in the monetary revolution, this 2-Bit platform just opens up all kinds of doors that they don't have right now.
Hey, Bruce, I'm checking out this platform. It's revolutionary.
That's absolutely correct. And the futures platform is amazing. Great liquidity. And the copy trader program, people are going to be able to make the trades exactly when we make them and make the money that we make. It's a win-win for everybody.
Open for U.S. customers, and you can deposit money with a credit or debit card. Doesn't get better than this.
Beautiful. And what do you think we should use as a referral code?
I think we should use Impact Money. That's the one. Impact Money.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.